didn't see you come in. Hello, I'm Sir Weatherton Popperfield, and welcome to another episode of Annotated History for Dropouts and NASCAR Dads. We dedicate our program to educating those of you who want to learn about history, but don't want to take the time to research it. Tonight, we will relieve the burden of the musical. What is it? Where did it come from? When did it start? Do they still exist? Join us as we discover the fantastic and often exaggerated world of musical theater. Also known as musical comedy in its early days, musicals provide an experience which combines all of the arts into one brilliant performance. The skills that are involved in the making of a musical are prop making, construction, painting, acting, singing, dancing, and instrumental ability, plus more. Through the course of spoken dialogue, dancing, and singing, the story is told. Although they were once called musical comedies, they can be very tragic and serious, like Fiddler on the Roof, Les Mis, and West Side Story. Now, the big difference between a play script and a musical book is, well, in the musical world we have what we like to call a libretto. And that is a book that contains dialogue and music all in one. Also, people like to say that the musicals have descended from the operas, but the only main difference there is operas have no spoken dialogue, everything is sung. The first musical comedy as we know it was first born on Broadway in a series of shows starring Ned Harrington and Tony Hart.
Produced between 1878 and 1884, these musicals portrayed a clownish vaudeville feel, accompanied by catchy songs and phrases, and a dialogue for gags from song to song.
Other brands of musical existed too, like the post-Civil War African-American minstrel troupes and burlesque shows.
However, a revolutionizing writing team named Gilbert and Sullivan greatly revolutionized the musical theater industry to one of refined professionalism. Hello, Kitty. But they didn't take themselves that seriously. Gilbert's silly lyrics often invoking that reaction.
Not many of their smash hits are performed today. They still have some recognizable tunes and names. Some of their successes include The Pirates of Penzance, HMS Pinafore, Patience, and The Mikado, most performed today. In the early 20th century, most musicals were upbeat celebrations of American culture.
One man who specialized in this was George M. Cohan, who wrote musicals that produced songs embedded in our culture, like Yankee Doodle and Give My Regards to Broadway.
Not much worth mentioning happening in the 1910s, however. In the 1920s, things sped up. In Broadway's busiest year, as many as 50 new musicals would open in a single season. Some new composers included Rodgers and Hart, Cole Porter, and the Gershwins. And one of the most popular and powerful musicals ever made, Showboat, premiered in this decade.
During the 1930s, people feared that the musical was doomed, namely by the Depression and films and radio. Thanks a lot out-of-pocket support by Lee Schubert, the musical survived a period of economic depression. It produced shows like Of the Three I Sing, Porgy and Bess, and Anything Goes.
The 30s, despite its setback, was a great period for musical theater. The same was not to be said for the 40s. However, a writing team emerged whose names would be as synonymous with music theater as Gilbert and Sullivan's once were.
That team was Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II. They set out to prove the concept of doing lyrics first before writing the music. Coincidentally, the same way that Gilbert and Sullivan did it. They created the smash hit Oklahoma, which by itself completely revolutionized the face of musical theater. It was neither musical comedy nor operetta. It was a new thing. Fully rounded musical play with every element dedicated to moving the story forward.
The face of musical theater had changed again. With South Pacific as a follow-up, the team solidified their place in popular culture. Such musicals as Brigadoon, That Old Devil, and Where's Charlie were inspired by this artistic upheaval. However, the changes and reforms the musical was undergoing, it was going down a financial decline during the 40s. However, a wonderful period would come along for the musicals. Some even refer to the 50s as the golden age for musicals.
In the 50s, show tunes were a major part of American popular music. Every season saw new stage musicals send songs to the top of the charts. Even to this day, the musicals created in the 50s form the core of the musical theater repertoire. The best of these contain the Roger and Hammerstein formula, recognizable characters singing in stories with wit and genuine heart.
As for the pair themselves, they were superpowers in the 50s. They made favorites such as The King and I, Pipe Dream, The Sound of Music, and many others. However, just a few months after The Sound of Music opened, Hammerstein died, leaving an enormous legacy behind them. In other significant hits included Guys and Dolls, The Music Man, My Fair Lady, Camelot, and Damn Yankees. Also contributed to the musical scene was Leonard Bernstein's beloved West Side Story, which is one of the most produced musicals out there.
The early 60s did nothing positive for musicals, and further drove them into an awkward subculture. Some notable musicals made this period are as follows: Carnival, Hello Dolly, Oliver, Fiddler on the Roof, Man of La Mancha, and Cabaret.
The late 60s closed the door to musicals entering the pop culture. The only musicals to speak of were Hair and 1776. The 70s saw the musical thrive with a different kind of inspiration. It seemed rock musicals were the only way to revive Broadway. Then came Jesus Christ Superstar from Britain with Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. It qualified as the first real rock opera and ran for a little over 8 years. Some other musicals produced in the 70s included Godspell, Grease, Chicago, A Chorus Line, Pippin, Bye Bye Birdie, Annie, Peter Pan, and The Wiz.
Due to the limited knowledge of rock composers, some musicals were just embarrassments. Another type of musical was developed in the late 70s by Stephen Sondheim, called concept musicals. The plot would build around a concept: marriage, single versus married life. Culture Clash is another example, and follows several characters and relationships.
At the end of the 1970s, a battle between Sondheim and Webber emerged with their musicals Sweeney Todd and Evita. The problem about making musicals was now making the choice between artistic merit and financial concerns. Naturally, it leaned one way, and it set the course for the remainder of the 20th century and into the 21st.